talks about her fucking casserole fucking bullshit.
So, Jimmy, I
Yeah.
have to ask you, I guess tonight as an icebreaker,
Okay.
are you familiar at all with Lily? I think her name is Lily Phillips.
I am not.
Have you heard of her?
I have not.
Okay, so she's an OnlyFans model who set a record for sleeping with 100 men in a single day.
Okay, I've seen. So that's the person's name. I've seen YouTube videos titled uh that description you gave me. I didn't know the details of it. I just yeah.
Yeah, so for whatever reason,
What inspires some? What inspires someone to be like, I'm just gonna fuck 100 people tonight? Just like that.
I don't know. And in the post interview, um, she's uh, kind of walking through how she went about doing it and why. And more or less, she was trying to give back to her subscribers. And she says this was kind of like a perk for them. She was promising every guy, I guess, 5 minutes of her time. And just because nature took its course, I suppose, they only got maybe like 2 or 3 minutes out of the deal. And they felt shortchanged. And she felt kind of bummed out about that. So there's a lot going on. And the reason that I bring this up is because in the interview, in the interview, she was talking about wanting to sleep with 1,000 guys.
In a night?
I guess in a day, or like
Holy.
or consecutively. So maybe
Oh.
like 36 hours, but it's just man after man after man.
Whew. I mean, I don't. For once, I really don't know what to really say about that. Like, I'm impressed she's walking at all after that. Like, holy fuck, dude.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, look how distraught she is. I was trying to find the clip. I had it, and then I clicked out of it by accident. But here we go. She's brought to tears as she is recalling her experience. She's being interviewed by this guy, Josh Peters. Well, here we go.
I think sometimes like feeling so like robotic, like I think like the 30th, like when we're getting on a bit, I've got like a routine of like how we're gonna do this, and like it just sometimes you'd like disassociate and be like.
$1,000. Okay. Well, this video is kind of fucking bullocks. I was just trying to see where she was talking, but anyway, she's brought to absolute tears in that clip. She goes on to tell the guy, Josh Peters, that she more or less kind of blacked out most of the night. She only recalls about 10 to 15 guys. And then beyond that, the rest of it is just a blur. And she said it was like a routine. She would bring the guy in. And I don't believe she was. And of course, look, I don't want to sensationalize this. I'm not trying to make any sort of smutty jokes, but I'm not sure what services she was administering, but it sounds like she was bringing the guy in and then just laying on her back for 2 or 3 minutes, escorting him out of the room, bringing in the next fella, and doing it all over again. In no way can this feel like an accomplishment.
Well,
Can
yeah.
it?
Well, if she's coming out and she's saying like, "Well, I feel robotic," it's just like, yeah, like you just let some dude go to town on you for like 2 to 3 minutes, and then you basically it's like a conveyor belt. Basically, I'm not trying to be funny about it, but it's the truth. It's just like on to the next, like one from the after the other. It's just like
Right. And what really disturbs me is that these people are her fans. These are the guys that are paying a monthly subscription to her account. And I'm going to ask you this, Jim, since you are the single man here. Have you ever delved into the world of OnlyFans? Have you bought any of these photo reels or anything?
I have not.
It seems like a pyramid scheme. My bad.
I mean, it's like if you want to be a sex worker, fine. I don't care. Like that's your thing. But it's like I don't see the appeal behind it. And I know people are gonna scream misogyny, but it's just like porn is free. And I know porn is not a better alternative, but it's like I don't have to pay anything for that.
Well, you know what I think it is though, Jim, is that the idea of a porn star, okay, like the idea of like a Mia Khalifa or a Dylan Harper, in a way they're like a C or D list celebrity. And OnlyFans models could be like she could be your coworker at McDonald's these days.
Could be your teacher too.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, like
I when I think about this, I think about the fact, especially growing up in Maryland, and and if I grew up out there in Nebraska, it'd be a totally different story.
of course.
And maybe for you in New York City, I don't even know when you came to the realization of what porn was or any of that, but just the concept of porn as a teenager was typically that these films were being shot way out, there in La La Land, out there in San Bernardino Valley, and that regular girls had much higher standards. Most of them were not even going to date you, let alone sleep with you or send picture. Most of this stuff was not even thought of, and the concept of dating was different. And we were being taught that, hey, what you're seeing on the internet is very unhealthy and is not real life. And what I'm beginning to worry more and more is that this shit is bleeding into real life.
Yeah.
Because more and more people are turning. I couldn't imagine being 15 years old and realizing that the pretty waitress at Denny's that I see every Saturday morning has an OnlyFans. You know what I mean? Like, could you imagine how fucked that would be to the teenage mind?
Well, that and like there's I actually there's a YouTube channel I follow, and they did a video a while back about this gal who did OnlyFans, and like eventually and like she would buy her family like expensive shit. Well, it got to the point where her brother was getting like fucking bullied in school for shit, and it's just like, you know what? It's like I had it pretty bad bully wise growing up, but that was just for like being a nerd and shit like that. I couldn't imagine being a kid going to school now and finding out that a relative of yours does that shit, and some kid at school just like throws that in your face, and it's just like your mom's a whore or your sister's a whore. It's just like, it's fucked up, like, but it's just
it's terrible. And for all of these teachers that are doing OnlyFans to make ends meet because I'm sure it pays the bills a lot more sufficiently than being a door dasher. And it's time consuming because you don't have time to grade papers and do all the extracurricular shit that being an educator requires,
Yeah.
and then also make sure that some douchebags Del Taco gets to his house.
Yeah.
But should there be a contract that says that public school teachers can't do OnlyFans?
Well, I don't know if I would have a contract for it, but I would say that if it gets found out, don't be surprised if they drop you, or any business for that matter. Like McDonald's is probably going to care a lot less compared to like a place to where you're sending your kids, for an education. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit happen at McDonald's, and we're not going to act like crazy shit doesn't happen behind the counter that people don't know about. I can accept a McDonald's worker doing it, it's whatever. But a teacher, it's like, yeah, I get it. Being an educator doesn't pay the greatest. It's one of the first things when I went to be a teacher I was taught in teaching 101, that you're not really doing this for the money. But it's like, you want to do it. I don't know how you're just like, and you can't really be discreet about it considering that you want people to buy into it. So like you're practicing peacocking. It's like you want to draw attention away from it, but you want to keep eyes off of it at the same time. So it's just, I don't know, like how you
And
know.
right, and I kind of begin to wonder who's buying the OnlyFans of these teachers. And I honestly, I would assume that it's the other teachers on staff.
Well, that and like it could be. I mean, there could be students that do that too. Imagine, for
Oh,
example, like
absolutely.
like the 17-year-old like gal that's like fiending after her like 30-year-old like social studies teacher, and she finds out that he has an OnlyFans, and she's like, if you don't do X thing that I want, I'm going to expose it. And then you got the opposite end of that, and it's it,
Yeah, we live in an era now, honestly, Jimmy, where there are certain necessary evils that have to be accepted. And one of them that we should have accepted a long time ago and just seemingly didn't is that we live in an era where we are so digitized that especially young adults, especially those in their 20s, perhaps their early 30s. I don't know how much further along you're taking photos of yourself. I can't imagine 50-year-olds sending them back and forth, but who really knows? The
yeah.
point that I'm getting at is that nudes and this sort of flirtation over social media apps, it's just commonplace now. It's a part of dating, it's a part of flirting. And no matter how unhealthy it might be for everybody to just be sending snapshots of their bodies to just random strangers, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And we could discuss the pros and cons of casual sex and hookup culture all we wanted to. It's just the fact that you now know that there's a high likelihood that if someone is single, especially if they're an attractive woman, that there might be nudes of them out there somewhere. Now, I'm not saying this is for every single person.
Of course.
Okay. But what I'm saying is it's a very scary thought to have, because not just that somebody could find your OnlyFans, because quite frankly, oh, poo poo, someone
Well,
found the thing
well,
that
someone's
you're
finding something that you want people to find
right.
anyway.
Yeah. What I'm concerned about, though, is what I was getting at. All of these iPhone leaks or these iCloud leaks, all of these breaches of Google accounts. So many people are taking private photographs of themselves just out of routine of how we go about, as I said before, dating and flirting and hooking up and etc. And it becomes a really negative space. It's a really dangerous form of blackmail. It's the most damaging form. And I heard a story very recently that a coworker told me, that there was a young woman. I believe she might have been a student teacher, maybe 25 if she was old. And she was taking over for a teacher who had retired mid-year. And she was kind of naive and a little ditzy maybe, but she was, really just trying to figure out how to teach, and the kids were being brutal to her. Well, one day she went to the bathroom and she didn't lock her phone, and one of these piece of shit kids grabbed her phone, found photos of like her boobs or whatever in her phone, sent them to themselves, and then put it on Snap to everybody in the store well, like a story.
Yeah. It's, I mean, in an instance like that, it's like, that's private. Like that
Well,
was,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
and I think the kid who initially did that should be expelled. And you have to say to the parents, what the fuck do you have going on at home? Do you think that your child can just go up to their teacher's phone and just fucking take it off the desk if it's unlocked? It's like what the fuck do you have going on here? Do you think that's you know it's a wise idea? But I get
Right.
it. I get the sentiment. Like I don't want to tell people what they can and cannot do, but certain professions do require you to be professional, and if you are teaching people's kids, whether they're elementary or high school age, fuck, even colleges to a degree have a sort of stricter thing around that. Like, you're gonna have to bear some level of
Oh,
consequence for that.
and don't get me wrong, Jimmy. I don't think that she should face any professional backlash
No,
for
no, I'm
being
not saying.
flirtatious in her personal life. The point that I was getting at is that the downside
I
of our
get it.
flirtation being so digital and so public is that he even thought that, oh shit, I know this is in her camera reel. You get what I mean?
I get it to a degree, but like.
But it's fucked up. Like the kid, I'm pretty sure the kid should be charged. I don't know
Of
what
course.
happened to what happened to the fucking guy, but
No, I get what you were saying, and I only made that distinction because I think that, like, even before OnlyFans, I think people were taking nudes of themselves. I think it wasn't until I noticed in about 2016 to where that became more like sort of like that was the beginning of it becoming mainstream. And by like 2018, probably even 2017, that was more game on. That was more
well, that's what Snapchat was originally meant for. Was to share explicit photos of each other, and
yeah.
then I think that piece of it really only it really only served in that way for a short period of time before it became just another social media app. But yeah, it's definitely something that we have gotten to this point where we have two sides of the spectrum. We have that we want to be we want to be private, and we want to create a space where things like this are not acceptable. But what I think is also really unacceptable, and perhaps this is going to be a whack take on my part, we should not be giving attention to people like Lily Phillips. This should not be a news story. This should not be an interest piece. There should be no reason that we consider sleeping with 100 guys in a day. Someone grab her a blanket. 100 guys. Get her an ice bath and a Bible. Please.
I mean, or in the very least, go to like therapy. I'm not trying to be like that, but there has to be
medically examined.
There has to be something there. I also have to say this about as well, especially if you're a teacher that has a
Would
thing
you
like
like
that.
to see the lineup of all these guys? Would you like to see what they all look like?
I would prefer not. 'Cause that'd be just, you know, they've clearly got their own shit going on too, and it's like, no. What I'm saying is that there's what I'm gonna say is that the more you try to live two separate lives, the harder it gets to be. It's hard to be a teacher and someone who's basically, you know, like a stripper and sort of delving into sort of more pornographic stuff. It's hard to keep those two separate. It's not like, you know, a teacher and their husband being like swingers on a weekend. It's a little different because then, you know, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that's a news piece either. I expect random podcasts and random YouTube channels to talk about it because slop content is slop content. I get it, but it's just, yeah.
Right. Like you always knew, okay, when you were in school, you knew like, oh yeah, like this particular teacher is clearly a stoner. But for
Yeah.
obvious reasons doesn't discuss that he's a stoner.
Yeah.
Or you could tell teachers it might be a little, that it might be swinging. I've always kind of had this theory that teachers fuck each other. I don't know why.
Yeah,
It
it's like,
seems they all do.
it's like most workplaces.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know,
So
I'm guilty. Yeah, I'm guilty of it.
Oh yeah. He finds plenty of chicks in the trunks to take
Oh
home with
no,
him.
that's not what I was getting at. No.
As he's detailing the cars, he finds the chicks in the carpets.
Yeah,
Brings them
that's
on
what I
home.
do. No, but I'm just saying.
Kind of stiff.
I'm saying that's okay. No, I'm just saying like that. I can accept more like co-work, like I accept that more than
Oh man.
than just trying to live two separate lives, and it's just I feel like you got to pick one or the other, or and yet again for what that is, it's you want it to be discreet, but it needs to be out there at the same exact time, and it's just.
I'm thinking about being a manager at a KFC and also being a party clown.
I'll give you a better example. I'm gonna be a professor at Harvard, but I'm gonna talk about how I bang whores every weekend. I do blow. I'm getting blackout drunk, and I'm just urinating everywhere. Like someone at Harvard might be like, you're educating the future generation. I don't know if you living like Van Wilder is what we need around here.
Right. Well, although I don't know, maybe he'd fit right in at Harvard these days.
Well, you know what I mean. If you want to return to more, I'm just saying for a professional thing, if you're acting unprofessional and that's who you are, like, it's just not going to work out. Or if you disguise that you're an unprofessional individual and you're able to play the part well, it's going to catch up with you. Like, it's just,
So anyway, Jim, it was made official about a day or so ago. The Supreme Court in Nebraska has confirmed that the medical cannabis laws have passed. There will be no further appeals. The lawsuits that were being filed to question the technicality of the language of the bill and all this nonsense.
Oh, I saw that.
It was completely tossed out. And, I have to say something about these goofs in Rock County. Okay.
Yeah.
No, because our old friend is from down there, so I'm not going to, shit too much on it. But did you see that goofy lawyer? His suit jacket barely fit, his tie was too short.
I saw
and
it.
he's going, what if the children breathe that in? What happens then? Are you
know what?
fucking
After my
kidding?
child looked at you, they might need some medicinal marijuana. You scarred them
This
for a
fucking
little
guy,
life.
like, it was weird. Did you notice how he was balding all except for the middle of his head on top
I
of
saw
it?
that. Brother, man, you might need some of that medicinal marijuana.
Oh my goodness.
He's just pissed. He's just like, someone called me a knockoff chia pet the other day, and I'm pissed.
Oh yeah. Well, you see, I'm not too sure how I feel about this marijuana stuff. God.
You know what? He does remind me of a fucking Radiohead voice of, think about the children. What if they smoke the medical marijuana and they can't take harmful pills anymore?
Well,
I
will say this. We will see how long it takes the Nebraska Medical Cannabis Commission to get up on its feet. And if it happens in a due time, I will not disclose here. Well, I'll tell you right now, it ain't gonna be Dawes County. I will look if they open one there, great, but it will not be Dawes County where I will be coming back. However, I've been thinking about coming back. There's no reason why not to. I don't know where yet though. I wouldn't say on here. Maybe the Panhandle, maybe not. Don't know. But I mean, we'll see what the fuck happens because I could see working at a little store, somewhere. It'd be a fun little thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get into cultivation. That could be neat. Unless if they're gonna, bring some out of staters, they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to get horticulturalists. They're gonna have to get compliance people. It's gonna be a whole Megillah.
Maybe they get Destiny.
Oh fuck! But I don't know if it gets up and running, and they need bud tenders or just basic industry folk. I'm down for it, man.
And once the industry opens, that fat fucking lawyer needs to go to every dispensary that opens up and needs to let every motherfucker slap him in there. Then he needs to call his mother and slap his mother too for raising such a fucking pansy fucking bitch.
I called this because it seems like it's the common thing.
Of course.
But because the reason I say that, North Dakota banned Delta 8. And then they got a medical cannabis program, which, by the way, is phenomenal. Yeah. I don't know if people realize this or not because it's North Dakota. But there's flour, there's tinctures, there's wax, there's edible. Yep. It's the whole spectrum. But the state clearly doesn't want it recreational. They clearly want it to be medical. But it's for everything. It's the most liberal medical cannabis program in a red state that I have ever seen.
I guess in a weird roundabout sort of way, it is recreational. It's just not in the traditional way.
I mean, I've heard, now like in Montana, when I was living there before it was medical for like 5 years. It was medical early on. Yeah. And it took a long time to become rec. But I was told, you could say, oh, I have back pain or I have insomnia or whatever, and then you could get a card. And I don't know if North Dakota is the same way or not. I briefly looked into jobs up there. They don't call them bud tenders. They call them wellness advocates. And it's this very politically correct, sort of legislatively worded thing. And I would imagine that it's because if you begin using slang in certain ways, like bud or whatever, it might give this more urbanized sort of recreational feel to it. But if you use these made up medicinal terms, which I mean, they're just all fabricated, it sounds more like it sounds more like a pharmaceutical operation, I take it. And that's probably why in certain markets, even where medical marijuana is absolutely being smoked in the traditional way that anybody else would put weed into a pipe and smoke it or roll it into a joint or what have you.
Yeah.
However, the terminology and how that's being done is very different. And as someone who is industry, I will tell you, you're not going to see, oh, you're going to grind up some pot, and fucking stick it in there and blah, 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 blah. It literally says you are going to administer your medical cannabis into an inhalation instrument. Not a bowl, they try to use this language because they want to destigmatize it while allowing people to live and let live. But here's the thing, okay, there's a lot of cons with recreational. Okay, there's a lot of people who aren't willing to actually see a doctor, who aren't willing to keep up on their medical prescription, who aren't willing to go through those necessary steps. And then once rec comes, suddenly the tried and true medical patients are pushed to the back. Suddenly the rec patients become entitled and kind of rambunctious. And I'm not saying that's every single recreational person, customer, but I am saying that I have noticed that there's a lot of discombobulation now. And it used to be that medical patients were first come, first serve, and many times they are. Well, then you have these rec customers in the back, and they're saying, I've been here 30 minutes, and I got here first. And then the medical patients are saying, well, I have precedence over you because I am a card holder. And then there's this whole, intercession back and forth. And it starts a whole fucking thing. I've seen it all. So I totally understand why, especially given what North Dakota allows for depression, for anxiety, for, PTSD, and then obviously, cancer or, multiple sclerosis or, more serious things of that nature. Yeah. So it's not as if it's just a tincture cream, very limited program like you see in Georgia or like Alabama, for an example.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm going on and on. The point that I'm getting at is that it's all I'm noticing that these states that don't go rec, these red states like South Dakota, another one, like Oklahoma is another one. They have nice programs. Is my point.
Yeah.
So in a way, the recreational market may kind of bastardize that. So I respect those states for not going rec, quite frankly.
Yeah. Yeah, and also making things sound like they're fancier and higher and mightier than what they are going to have the opposite effect. That's like if I told Walmart the only way a cart pusher is going to get respect is if you call them lot masters instead. You know how it would be silly.
Right.
It'd be like, and if someone calls you a cart pusher, you'd be like, buddy, that's lot master. It's just like, shut up.
It's like you say, I want a bong. Oh, no. That's a water pipe. Like, we're so past that here.
Oh, yeah. If I told you I was a piping draftsman, you'd be like, shut up. You're a steam fitter. Shut up. You know what you're doing.
Right. Exactly. But what I mean but if you go into a smoke shop in Nebraska, you can't ask for a bong. You have to ask for a water pipe. But here in Maryland, you can say bong. I don't know how the Dakotas work in that sense, if it's a water pipe or not. And then even then, it should be decriminalized in states where it's medical, because then there can't be an instance of you being pulled over and your flour is in a container that's not labeled and dated, and then you get hit with a citation. I know that certain states that can very well happen. So there's a lot of red tape. And
Yeah.
quite frankly, I don't really know the full scale state to state, but it's interesting to see how it all develops.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
for the
what now?
New Year coming up, do you? And I know saying New Year's resolution is kind of cringe for some people, but do you have like any set goals in mind, like stuff you'd like to actually do or get accomplished or whatever that may be?
Well, one way or another, I don't know if we are going to remain in this apartment or not, but if we don't, then we are then on to figure out when, where, and how that all looks. I don't know if we are going to leave the state again or not. There is a limited list of where we could end up and what would make sense.
Yeah.
And that's going to be what we're going to have a couple of months to figure out. Beyond that, I hope to have my final semester at CSC here very soon.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, I guess life will go on, but that's a big thing. And as far as this show goes, I would like to find some kind of nice platform, some kind of niche that we could go down for the show. And I enjoy that we kind of sample everything and we have fun with different things, and that's fine. But maybe a kind of thematically figuring out how we are going to cover everything as we go, and then what we won't cover at certain points, or how we can incorporate guests into things. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotcha. No, like I said, with the guest thing, I just maybe I don't know how hard we'll lean into the guest thing, but I'd like maybe 2, maybe 3 guests a month, given the size of our show and everything right now. And I know that and maybe some shows, if we can manage it, I know we can have up to 6 people on here. Maybe if we can get, multiple people in at a time, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Yeah, no, not at all. I would enjoy a 4-person panel. That could be a lot of fun.
And maybe we do like I know we talked about it a month or so ago, but maybe we get like a game show figured out.
Yeah, I'm thinking about maybe we can do like a special where we play a game. As a matter of fact, we can get 6 squares in here. I want to do our little version of see, I thought it'd be funny to play the panhandle squares.
Oh fuck.
And I think it'd be funny. I think it'd be something we could do. But I don't know. We'll have to see. Jimmy, I want you to do, Jimmy.
Yes.
I know you watch a lot of news. I want you to get me a list of the news anchors that you find attractive, and I want you to have that ready for our Christmas Eve show. When you read your letter to Santa of what you want for Christmas, I'm gonna need you to have on hand those news anchors. It can be Megyn Kelly. It can be it can be anybody. It can be Rita Panani from Lefties Losing It, maybe.
Ooh, yeah, she's pretty high up on the list. I'm not gonna lie.
She's got a weird face, though.
I've got a weird face too, so I can live with it.
Oh yeah, I mean, shit. Although I don't know about you banging Rita, I feel like both of your lazy eyes something would happen. They would like
kid will come out like just like like a Furby or one of those toys where the eyes are all fucked up.
Oh shit!
But no, I think for
They
the
would meet each other and like a bird would fall out of the sky.
it'd be I could finally say to someone, I'm actually looking at you all the way and not the wall behind you.
Oh man.
No, but I think that would be good. More guests, game show stuff for guests that come on to, beyond like like the first time a guest is on, we'll kind of like do what we did with Richard, just an interview, kind of have them tell us what they're about, what they like, so on and so forth, and then in future shit, you kind of just fuck around with it and see what happens.
Yeah. And, and regardless of where we wind up, I hope that we have a bigger place. I hope that I have a little bit more of a sophisticated area where I do this. Right now, I have an old table. When my grandmother passed away, we inherited we inherited a couple of miscellaneous pieces of furniture, and one of them is this really old table that I have my mic on. And then I have a small desk where I kind of, I would like a little bit better of a setup, maybe a slightly bigger space. I don't know. We're gonna see what happens.
Yeah.
I would honestly, I'm not above the route that you went of buying a trailer. I'm not above the route.
It's great, and I'm enjoying it. It's
Actually, you know what? When we get off the air before we leave the studio, I gotta see how this. I'm interested in how this place is laid out. I've never seen the inside of it, but I'm not gonna make you show it on the fucking stream.
of course.
So after we hang up here, I'd like to, because I'm looking at some different layouts. My big thing is, obviously, the wife, she would like some extra bedrooms for, she's not pregnant or anything, but
Of
you know,
course.
the discussion is always there, and you'd like to have the space for them.
Well,
But
yeah.
and my big thing too is I would like to have, it's not a place you're going to live forever necessarily, but it's a starter home that's in a good price point. And I'm looking at like a decent kitchen, a decent bath. I would love 2 bathrooms. That would be incredible.
It
I,
is.
I
I can
really, it
tell
just
you.
a basic house, a house that our parents would have bought for like 120 is 500 grand now. So the trailer homes, I mean, that's our price point. And some of them are really nice now. These newer ones are beautiful.
Yeah.
I just got to figure out where I can get one. If I could get one in my area, I would. There's just no fucking, they're just not around.
I guess I should mention what like my primary goal going into this year was,
Yeah,
because I
please do.
I wasn't expecting to have I had as a goal a few years ago to have a house by 30. I wasn't expecting to kill that milestone short, like months short of 29. So I'm like, fuck, okay, I gotta find something else to do now. So the idea occurred to me, I'm gonna try and write a book. I don't know. I don't care if it makes a ton of money. I don't care if it's like on the New York seller's best list. I got an idea for what I want to do with it, and I'll just I guess to give a little background into it, the title of the book is called Return to the Golden Boy Superhero. It talks about not just within superhero media, but within books and other stuff. It's a sort of departure away from like your Superman and your Spider-Man is, and it's just more into the like this idea that the anti-hero is really cool and all this other stuff, and it is, but the anti-hero shouldn't be the norm, and the sympathetic villain shouldn't be the norm. You need to have the hero that you root for, and you really need to have that shitty villain that you don't root for. Like that makes what makes the hero triumph over that even greater. But nowadays, I see the heroes are just edgy, they're scummy, and all this other stuff, and the villains are made to be sympathetic. And it's just like, yeah, in
They're
some
gay
stories,
too, seemingly.
well, I figured that one without being said. I'm trying to avoid going on the whole DEI fucking rant because I think I rant about that enough, and I don't know how much I'll touch upon that in my book because even if you strip away all of that, it's still just, you know, it's still just not even just edginess, but it's just somehow it became the norm. It's just like there's a reason why I enjoy characters like Spawn, Punisher, all this other stuff because there's not as many of them compared to your Superman, your Spider-Man, your Captain America. But it seems the more I see it, I mean, Zack Snyder of all people was just like, we don't need Superman being all good and whatnot. It's just like, but you do. Like he's he's like there's a reason why he is. It's like he was born in like his adoptive Earth parents raised him in like fucking Kansas and stuff like that. Like that's like the idea of him is that he grew up in a small town. He grew up in this idea of community and all that. For the idea of it is that he is like a being literally out of this world, but yet he embodies humanity. He embodies like genuineness, decency, and he also shows that you have to fight against things that tempt you. No matter how tempting things are, you have to be able to resist it. Even if your life might be better for it, it just, you know.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Where
I feel
would you
like
base your so is this book about, is it like a fiction book, or are you gonna, or is it about more about
it's
the nature of writing superhero books?
well, it's well, a part of I think the way it's definitely going to be nonfiction, but a lot of it's going to come from what like inside of like my headspace, what I think about, like what does it mean to be a hero, what does it mean to be an anti-hero, and just of course I'm going to talk about the modern writing, but I just have to say to people who are anti SJWs, if you think I'm gonna go, like, don't get me wrong, I think the DEI stuff is obviously shitty, but even if you strip it, some of the writing is still just awful without it because, and I'm gonna put it like this: men who try to write female characters or for women or for men, and then people are shocked that they turned out masculine. It's just like, yeah, that's why it's you don't write like that's the other thing. I want to write a book that anybody is interested in reading. My book is not going to be meant for everyone. I think it's better to write it for anyone who's interested in reading it. You're never going to make, no matter how good your intentions might be or how noble you think you are, you're never going to write a piece of media that everyone is going to like. No matter how good the Lord of the Rings are, I know people out there who aren't into it. It's not because they think it's bad, it's just not, it's not for them. You
Right,
can
and
lambast
also it's written. It's a very, very old book. The Harry Potter books were written within the last 30 years.
yeah.
Lord of the Rings is a very, very old series of books, and the style that Tolkien writes in, it can be a bit hard to comprehend if you're not used to that style, for certain.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the DEI stuff, the most I'll touch upon it is that you can be an activist and a writer, but you can't be an activist who becomes a writer. Because if you're an activist who's also a writer, you generally know to keep the two separate, or if you're going to have activism be in your book, you have to have a reasonable way to present it. But if you're just an activist who is a writer, your activism is going to bleed into what you write, and it's going to be less of a story and less of a propaganda piece or a hit piece or whatever it is. It's like
Right.
I understand art is subjective, but quality isn't. If the 90-page book you're writing to me is something I can just see over a few tweets on Twitter, you've lost me. Like it just, or Blue Sky now, because but my point is that I also need to be able to address. I don't know if I'll do it in this book. I do want to keep it separate to the heroism thing, because I think having I think having like responsible like heroism is also good, not just for masculinity or femininity, but humanity. When you have constant anti-heroes or these vigilantes, it just screams to me that so many people have given up on humanity, or the only way that a character can be written is if they have to be a rule breaker. Someone has to toe the line. It's just like, yeah, every once in a while, I like a character who doesn't entirely toe the line. And I'm not going to lecture people on how you write your characters, but if you're like in line and you're presenting anti-hero or vigilante character number like 7085, and you have nothing to distinguish them outside of their appearance, but their characteristic is, if you're writing just another version of the Punisher, it's just like, I've already read the Punisher. Unless you're gonna do something better or like evolve above that, I don't. It's just
Right. Like it's almost when like the old YouTube independent movies were big and everybody was doing an independent zombie movie.
yeah.
Almost every single one of those stories ended up being very similar, rather cliche. Every zombie kind of emotes in the same way and responds to things in the same way. Do you feel like there's a lot of cut and paste in these fandom texts? People don't want to be creative because it's Reddit and it's easily stolen, or it's Tumblr or whatever. Or are there people that think they're creative and they're just not?
Well, I mean, a part of it is that, but the other part is, I don't think there's anything wrong with tropes or being cliched, but you have to be able to do something with it. Otherwise, it's you could be mistaken for like, if I make a zombie movie and it's pretty much just World War Z diet, like, congratulations. Your thing is good. Your, like, my zombie film is going to be remembered as being the diet version of this really good zombie film. And I accept when you write heroic characters, for example, one of the tropes is that you usually have tragedy attached to your character. Something is going to typically spring them into that light, like Spider-Man, for example, and Sam Raimi's movies especially. The event that springs Peter into like action is Uncle Ben's death. That's the tragedy that springs him into action. And when he learns what great power comes great responsibility is, he like that like that's like that right there defines Spider-Man. Every character, like every heroic character, is going to have a tragedy somewhere in their story. It's typically wise to have it at the start, but sometimes you can have a moment that truly defines who they are. Like, maybe in the middle of a story that I write, I could have someone that's very close to that heroic character die, and then they're left with a choice of it questions what they stand for, so on and so forth. I like, if so I accept that our tropes and there are cliche things. You need to also have, like, I call it the save the cat moment, because you need to have a moment that defines why am I like why am I calling them a heroic character. It's the case of show do not tell. I can tell you this character is heroic all I want, but if I don't show it, it doesn't mean anything. Whereas if I just show, like, like little Billy before he gains the ability to shoot, like, heat vision and can just wield flames. He saves a cat that's stuck in a tree for, like, the elderly lady across the road. He partakes in helping kids run a lemonade stand. Like, he shows genuineness. He shows who he is before he gets these powers.
Right, correct, yeah.
Like, it's important to establish character. The other thing is that, and this is also a part of like filmmaking and movie making and everything. You rely when you rely solely on visuals, and unless you're gonna do like a silent film to where you're relying on gestures and everything like that. If you're relying solely on visuals like CGI, stop motion, whatever it may be, you're also kind of doomed there too. Like story is important, and if unless you're going to unless you have a clever way of falling into that, like I could bet you there's a person out there right now who, if they ever come across this film, or like not this film, this video, and might have a decent script for an anti-hero. I'm not denying that person because they have a clever way of presenting it. I'm just talking about the same hack film, the same hack material. Character was wronged by some corrupt individual, and now and corrupt individual isn't in prison or something like that. Now I'm going to John Wick my way through this situation, and at the end of the film, I'm just going to say, "You took my father." Bang. It's just like, it's like.
It's like every movie, it's either like Liam Neeson or Jason Statham or one of these people. It's always this unexplained evil group of guys kidnapped his daughter, and then he goes and kills them. And
at least to those films' credit, they do well. Even like that is an example. Yeah, that is an example of a genre to where like Beekeeper, John Wick, The Equalizer, the film with Liam Neeson, all of those films, at least they that is a trope and like a cliche thing that actually works.
Right.
Like you can get for example, in The Equalizer, if Denzel Washington's character just walked into a room and just killed a bunch of people without the context that you can tell that he's like secret, like he was in the military or secret forces, because you could tell he lives a very routine life. He does things on the dot. He has he goes to work at a specific time, he eats at a specific time. The way that he checks his watch and he says 30 seconds, like you could tell that this man has had some training. You're not telling me this, but you're showing me that he is either like a part of like the armed forces, an assassin, or someone who's had some discipline. Like that is like an example of like the scene in the first Equalizer where he kills all the Russian mob dudes, the 30 seconds. Like that shows me that this is a man who is taught to get the job done in a quick manner, and you get out, you leave nothing behind. No witnesses, no survivors. Get in, you get out, and that's done. Like,
and that sets the tone for a really fun 2-hour movie.
Yeah. And with John Wick, we like in the first movie, we learn with that Russian mobster, the boogeyman, or he's the guy that you call to hunt the boogeyman. And that already sets in our mind that the boogeyman's supposed to be this terrifying entity. And you're telling me that this guy is even more terrifying than that, because this is the guy that you call to snuff out the boogeyman. Like how he describes how, this was a man who was going to leave this life forever, and he was dragged back into it. And each of those like films they have a way of setting up their character. It's not some cringy dialogue. It's the character is built, and either they're like ex-communicano, they're ex-military, they're ex-special forces, something, or in the case of the Beekeeper, it's about when things get corrupt like within society, you need people on the inside who can keep that in check. And like those are fine, but when you're sixth female-led Marvel film is just my character is stronger than the men and they fight the patriarchy and all this other stuff, it's just like you're not saying that you're fighting the patriarchy unless you're an actress who goes on a tour and says it, but your film is telling me the girls are clearly stronger than the boys. It's like, I get it, man.
But you know what, Phil? You and I have always argued this. I enjoyed the Captain Marvel movie a great deal. I did. I enjoyed Brie Larson.
I enjoyed Brie Larson in Scott Pilgrim versus the World as Envy Adams because I've never denied that she can't act. She's an actress in one of my favorite movies, and I don't blame her entirely for Captain Marvel's script, though I do blame her for making comments at the expense of like old white guys and shit like that. That was fucking cringy.
It's par for the course.
I know it's par for the course, but my point is that you need to get back to what makes heroic characters good. And I'm not saying and if you want to have an anti-hero within your story, that's fine. Like, the reason why the Daredevil show on Netflix worked is because you had Bullseye and you had the Punisher, and both of them had their story set up. Bullseye was sick of criminals getting away with stuff time and time again, and as a cop, he had to pent in all of his frustrations, and he has to let people like Kingpin do whatever they want because they control everything. And in the case of the Punisher, he had his family basically taken away from him by some shitty people. So he feels that, a criminal can't, for example, a pedophile can't reoffend again if they're dead. And that is a controversial subject because on one hand, and this is one of my favorite scenes, not just from the Daredevil show, but just in media in general, it's the scene that takes place on the rooftop between Daredevil's character and Punisher's character, and they're basically talking about redemption, and it's a good talk because Daredevil's argument is that people need to be able to have a shot at redemption. They need to be able to try, and if the Punisher goes around and snuffs them out, they're never going to have that chance. But on the other hand, the Punisher presents, if you got a guy who's for example, a pedophile, and they and they did this horrific thing, sure, they have a chance to redeem themselves, but statistically, they have a chance to reoffend. Do you really want to take that, that shot?
Right.
Like, if you're going to have an anti-hero in your thing, sure, you can have them fight against the corruption of individuals and whatnot, but they need to be able to propose some, if not philosophical question, they need to propose something that is flawed within society, or something that makes people think. Because I'm the type of person that thinks that people can be redeemed, but if you present me with the case of, the pedo, it's like,
right. Well, okay, that brings me to a question. And this is not to be political at all, but
of course,
the whole thing with this Luigi kid and shooting the CEO. Yes. There's people who see this as, it's not murder because it's not spilling of innocent blood. This was a man who had millions of faulty insurance claims under his belt. He knew that the AI was faulty. He knew what he was doing was wrong. Do you consider like this vigilantism that we are beginning to see in our news media when it comes to killings and such, kind of being similar to to what we're talking about here?
If the guy went to court, and I don't know if he ever went to court, if this CEO had went to court with all of this shit and he got off, I could understand people's frustrations. I personally wouldn't kill him, but I would get it. But my understanding is that he never went to court. It was decided for him. And my issue with the Luigi thing, since we brought it up, is that I don't hear any calls for gun control after that.
No, that's the craziest part. This is where the "Eat the Rich" slogan becomes really daunting to me. And before I'm called a bootlicker and I'm told that I'm, being an apologist of billionaires or what have you.
But before you say your next statement, before someone calls you a bootlicker for that, these are the same individuals who bootlick for politicians, so they can shut the fuck off.
I know. What I'm trying to say is, in no way did I shed a tear when I heard about this guy dying, because yes, the death of Brian Thompson did not affect me. He's not someone who, I would admire for any reason. He's not someone who would affect my day one way or the other. But you know what? I was disappointed by the sheer reaction. And you and I have discussed this,
Of course.
In previous episodes. But I was so taken aback by the continued reaction, the Free Luigi movement. People are saying they should put him on The Bachelor. They should give him a podcast. In no way do they see this guy as going to jail for the rest of his life, which he may or may not do. What I don't like about this, we can talk about greedy CEOs. We can talk about our just butt ugly healthcare system. We can have those conversations and those debates all day long. But at the end of the tunnel here, the conversation needs to be that murder is not okay. Killing people that we don't like is not okay. And the kid, Luigi, he was a young kid from Towson in his early 20s. Rich kid. His parents owned golf courses and country clubs and things. If this Brian Thompson was at one of these country clubs, diddling kids, and that's why we come to find out that he shot him in the face, then great.
Well, yeah, and look,
but that's a wild speculation at best.
Of course, no. But you see, at that point, I would care less about him being a CEO and care more about him being a pedo, because I can separate the distinction. The other thing I have, this is
Oh, people are saying get Elon next, and that's deeply disturbing to me.
Yeah, well, of course. Surprise, surprise. People on the radical left want Elon dead. What a shocker. Yeah, that's the and I'm glad you brought this up, because I wanted to rant about it, but I know we kind of said that we were gonna kind of.
Oh, we can do whatever. We have another 25,
no, I know,
30 minutes.
I know what you mean. No, I know what you mean. I'm just saying, since you brought it up, I'm gonna bring it up. I don't want to hear any more crying about gun control, because what this particular individual concedes to me, something that two of us know, but these individuals clearly don't, is they have decided that that a gun is good or bad depending on who's wielding it. They have championed this guy as a herald. So there goes that. The other thing is, and I had someone tell me this on Facebook, and this is what I find really fucking funny but disturbing too. When I brought up that Luigi was a wealthy person, they told me, well, the wealth of the killer here doesn't matter. I'm like, but the wealth
of the whole argument was that he must have been the family member of someone who was wronged by an insurance company, or he must have had some deeply woeful reason for shooting this guy, and he was just a spoiled brat, seemingly.
What the argument I'm making is that you say the wealth of the killer doesn't matter. Why did the wealth of the CEO matter?
There you go.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just, and I say to that person, I'm like, you're saying the wealth doesn't matter because the person did the thing that you liked. But if this guy went on to defend the CEO, you would be flogging him all the same. So no, it's a bullcrap argument. You don't really care. Like, the whole eat the rich movement is just they have as much contempt for the poor, but they realize that the poor can hate the rich. So it's easy to get the poor to hate the rich, and these motherfuckers can too. My other thing is, and this isn't all women, but I find it funny for these women that are like, I picked the bear, are simping over this guy. You are simping over a killer, and you're telling me you choose a bear, and yet you're simping over a guy who couldn't even have the courtesy to look a man in the face, shot him behind, like from behind, and then took off on a bike. I don't want to hear the "I picked the bear" ever again because you're simping. It's not even just this guy. It
And
was like
also,
Ted Bundy, all of this shit.
if Trump really wants to be petty, couldn't he go after AOC for inciting a riot? Because she's the one who started this eat the rich bullshit. She wore it all over her dress. She had it written out in red, which could signify blood. If he really wanted to be an asshole, it could be his turn to start, throwing the witch water around.
If we're going to use ghostastic terrorism against Trump, you could use it here. You could say that she didn't come out and say to kill the CEO, but she's been. And I'm glad you brought up AOC too. I'm so sick of this whole you're bootlicking for a CEO who would never give you the time of day. Who cares? I don't give a shit. You're bootlicking for CEOs for politicians who don't give a fuck about you. You're bootlicking and dick riding the politician who sold you an Eat the Rich t-shirt for like $60 or some bullshit amount, and not see the irony that this individual who tells you that capitalism is terrible partook in the free market capitalist system.
Right.
No. If you're like the idea, if you're the individual who says preach peace, love, and all this other stuff, but are just like dismissive of it here, it's like you don't believe in peace, love, and all that crap. You'll believe it when it's convenient for you to say it.
It's something where it's tolerant. You see, this is a strange thing. And this is not to say that I am completely dismissive of anyone who is left leaning, but I was out to dinner with my uncle the other night, and he's in his 60s.
Yes.
And he is a moderate Democrat. He is very much a boomer Democrat that was, in the 80s, early 90s, in support of Jimmy Carter and of Bill Clinton and, some of these earlier Democrats in that time period.
Yes.
And the same goes for the first term of Obama, most certainly. But I don't think that those moderate Democrats are as vocal anymore as the third and fourth wave feminists, as the far left liberals, or these jingoistic atheist mongrel fucking types who did you know? So Justin Trudeau, he lied about Native American burial grounds being under Catholic churches, and damn near 100 of them have been burned to the ground across Canada.
Yep.
This is the type of party we're dealing with now, and we're being told that this is not a terroristic action. I, as a Catholic, am being told that I am not allowed to feel as if there is some sort of phobia or some sort of true hatred coming at me because my group is predominantly white in this country.
And yeah, Matt, and I can speak as someone who is not as atheist as they used to be, is even disgusting, and I've had to call out people in circles for it. And then you're told, oh, you're not. The goal that also kills me, and I've sort of ranted about this before, the goal that will never get me is you got motherfuckers who are not really atheists. They're anti whatever religion the right is, telling me a guy who is genuinely skeptical of all religions. I don't deny them. I have a skepticism of them. Because if you bring up Islam to these atheists, they'll tell you it's a valid religion, it exists, everything there is. It's just like, no, it's not how that works. If you had that same thought process for everything across the board, but you leaned a little more towards Islam, I could buy it, because you have that spectrum across the board of, I'm not entirely in favor of, but I'm not opposed to these religions and their institutions being. I've just seen more proof for why Islam might be realistic, but it's just anti-Catholicism, anti-Christianity, and it's fucking disgusting.
Well, here's the thing too: is that if you deny Christianity, if you mock Jesus and God, and then for some reason find yourself defending Islam, it's not because they are defending the teachings of Islam, the writings of the Quran. They damn sure are not defending Sharia
Gays being thrown
law
off the roof.
or Islamic governance
Yeah.
or any conservative operationalism that is far further to the right than we would ever imagine in the United States, which is the other reason that I bring up all the time. We cry wolf about Sharia law in some ways, but the last thing that we want on the other side of the curtain is biblical law or the laws of Moses. It's almost, it's not as violent on the other side, but you certainly will have your restrictions and you will have your concessions that you can personally make yourself. But what I'm getting at here is I think we begin to defend it because it goes down what is more diverse. They're definitely not in unless if you're talking about African Muslim countries. The Islamic nations are not third world by any means. They are more technologically advanced than we are in some cases, unless we're talking about like Afghanistan and those places. But I'm talking mainly about Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Turkey, those places. I really think that it's something where, because everyone in that religion has been typecasted as violent, even though most Muslims are very peaceful, ordinary people that go to work every day and come home and pay their bills and live a rather mundane, typical life that you and I do, they still in some communities have to kind of shudder and mute themselves in conversations of their faith because of the stamps that get put on them as soon as they vocalize it. So I can totally see that side too, Jim.
Yeah. And it's just I like the second you use a movement to weaponize like your true intentions, it's disgusting. Like, and I never liked the atheism movement. I like just being an atheist who moved at my own pace. I would study religious literature and kind of just draw my own inferences there. And that's the other thing that kills me too is I like when I was like 17, I brought up in a forum group would it make sense to read the Bible to kind of like get an idea of what? Because you would have people who would misquote the Bible, and it's just like, no wonder why people don't take you seriously. You're
Well,
taking
yeah.
these Bible quotes either out of context, or you're saying shit that's not even in any of the
Well,
testaments,
if you
and
look
it's
at it,
just
Jordan Peterson began studying the Bible in a way to disprove it, and now he's a Catholic man. He's on Hallow. He's doing prayer affirmations.
oh yeah, and a lot of his videos I've watched a good chunk of them are basically it shows the pathologies into it's like various part like he did a bunch of videos about the Old Testament, he did some about the New, and I just the thing that I look and look I'm trying to gather my thoughts. Maybe I'll write a book about that some days. My time in the more deeper parts of the atheist trenches, just to give people an idea of how if look, and it's just insane. It's just like how we can't define the far left, or at least we can now, but there was a point in time to where you couldn't really define the far left as easy as the far right. It's easiest for us to define religious extremists, but we don't really have enough talks about how to define radical atheists better. And it's fucked
Well,
up,
I
man.
think the radical atheists are coming to understand that Christians are not typically of low intelligence, and
No.
well, there are very highly intelligent people who are either Christian or, to the very least, will accept that there is archaeological evidence that Jesus Christ lived, and there could be physiological evidence of a possible God, and they leave it at that.
Yeah.
And then you have your atheists, like, okay, like the woman that looked at Ben Shapiro and said that Judaism is a religion, in taking no effort to realize that Judea is modern day Israel, and therefore that Jews are absolutely ethnically so. Um, and so it's remarks like that, it's the dismissals, it's the violent nature, it's the mockery, it's the dressing up Jesus as a drag queen, it's the constant stabs and social penetration by people who have no other interests other than seeing the reaction from that side that really gets to me.
Yeah.
I don't get why you put energy into something that has nothing to do with you. The religious side is going to say that, like, okay, not to get into this, but just for an example, if they feel that something is happening on a public level that is going to affect their children, they will speak out.
Yeah.
But for the most part, they don't care what you do behind closed doors. They are just talking about, or we are just talking about, this is what we will accept in the work, in school or the workplace or etc. And I don't really see how that is bigoted, and why it's okay for the pot shots to come our way, but then no criticism can be given back.
No. And these people are acting high and mighty. Let's be honest. The vast majority of you motherfuckers are on Reddit. Shut up, man. Like,
Right.
you're gonna go after people. Like, look, I'm not gonna go to, you know, church on a Wednesday, church on a Sunday or whatever. Like, but you're gonna act like gathering in the r/atheist forum boards on Reddit is like a high jolly time either. It's just like
Well,
I I
no, and here's the thing, I attend mass. I
yeah
typically during the week, if I can go on Sunday, I go, and I enjoy it. And it's a time for me to just be calm and to be in the congregation. And we just go to church right up the road here, and it's something that I kind of keep to myself. But the fact that there are people who find that funny, but then, like you said, they will spend an entire day on this forum, that they're not celebrating anything, they're not coming together, they're not fellowshipping, they're not taking joy in any sort of creed or belief system. They are relishing making fun of someone else and memeing them and berating them. And that's really all these pages are. They're these visceral attacks and these memes that are so disgustingly misrepresentative of what people of faith actually are, that
yeah
it's bigotry. But we aren't allowed to proclaim that, because we have been told that our side, we're going to be the whipping boys retributionally, but we are not allowed to claim any sort of victimhood, because systemically our side have been the victors or whatever the fuck.
yeah.
And and eventually that argument has to stop.
Yeah, I just like the other thing that kills me is that, and this doesn't apply for everyone to go on Reddit. I'm in a few nice subreddits like for Digimon and shit like that, where no one really gives a fuck about crazy bullshit. But you can't go on Reddit, go after these religions and basically you're mad that you're directionless. You're going after these people who have a sense of direction, like,
You
you
know,
know, has a trajectory and they see where their life is going to be, or in the very least they have a path that can guide them somewhere, at least show them the way.
right. And another thing is, and I notice, and this is just something that I've noticed, is that um the the hipster parents at least this generation, I mean, they definitely seem to be attached, whether they're religious or irreligious. I will say that it seems like, even though some of the parenting tactics seem to be kind of cheesy and superficial, there definitely is a very noticeable effort to taking care of children. But I will leave you with this, Jimmy. Okay, and this is kind of the truth of it and the way that I see it.
Okay.
Personally, I'm not saying that a agnostic conservative is an oxymoron, because doing so would be unfair. All I'm saying is I'm not quite sure what one is trying to conserve without having a doctrine to base it on. And what I mean by that is, let's say if a man, okay, there's an old adage. Let's say you move into a new home, and you have a table with 6 chairs, okay, and you and your wife seat 2 of them. The goal then there is to fill that table. So you sit around with your 4 children and you say, I was looking to, we were looking to fill this space in our life. We wanted to have these special people to fill this space with. And we were sent you. And you look at your children in that way, of course you're going to protect them. But if you are so atheistic and so materialistic and so interested in how Megan Fox is raising her fucking kids, as compared to you just being an intimate, all important, hyper, focused role in their life, I do think there's a downside to that. Now, look, fire and brimstone, people, being raised in the church and being having a lot of toxicity done onto them. I'm not saying that's not the case either, but I am certainly saying too that if you obsess with celebrities who give their kids pretentious names and pawn them off to nannies, but you make fun of those who, listen to religious music driving down the street, that says something way more about you than them. And that's all that I was trying to get at with that.
No, I got what you're saying. It's effectively you see, so the way I look at it is that for example, when the whole let's give this whole let's give hormonal therapy shit to children and stuff like that. Basically, the whole transitioning thing, the whole transgender thing, which is homophobic in its own sense, as pointed out in JRE and other stuff. Like boys who have think that they're girls, if they're left alone to just grow up, they turn out to be feminine gay men.
Right.
To get to the crux of what I'm saying here is that you have this radical leftist movement that is harmful to children, that are hurting children. And when someone who's not really in favor of one political affiliation or the other, I don't even have kids, and I'm concerned with the well-being of children. When I bring that up to someone, they will often say, well, you got kids getting diddled in churches. It's just like, okay, what you're doing here is that you acknowledge that there is evil shit going on in your camp, and you want me to go look elsewhere. I don't want kids getting diddled in churches either.
And here's the thing too, the argument then becomes is that every single child that goes to church will be molested, which is demonstrably untrue.
Yeah, and that.
So here's the thing, I am being Catholic, I will say that the molester priest jokes have always been uncomfortable to me. It's something that the Catholic Church has been relentlessly aware of over the last 25 years, and have done their best to whittle out the bad apples. And there's a lot of really good-hearted, truly innocent and vibrant priests out right now, and you're not hearing as much about the stories that you're hearing about are dated. And look, that's not to say that something can't happen again, or that unfortunately there are bad people
Of course.
involved in all walks of life. But to say that, well, this can happen, so you say, well, because it happens here, if it happens there, it's really no worse because it was going to happen anyway. That's a
Well,
crazy fucking argument.
well, I think my statement is that besides deflecting to the other side, you have one of two things you can do in that scenario. Either A, you put down your foot and say, no, children do not have the cognitive ability to decide if they want to if an 8-year-old boy says they want to be a girl, no, as a parent you don't let them do that. You wait it out until they're an adult, and if they're an adult and they want to make that choice, that's fine. Or you can just allow it to happen. The premise that I'm stating is that you acknowledge there's evil in your camp by pointing out there's evil in the other camp. So rather than saying, let's purge as much of this evil here as humanly possible to demonstrate that we're capable of that, because I know that the Catholic churches and churches within Christianity have been doing their darndest to purge it. The argument I was making is that I just, the deflection is always strange when you would just want to say, well, I want to do better with purging the evil that's in this group, because you're never going to get rid of evil. Evil exists everywhere, but you can do your
Right.
darndest to set a standard and say it's not allowed. To give the radical leftist credit, when individuals were trying to infiltrate LGBTQ plus spaces with the whole maps thing, they were like, no, it's not allowed. So you've already demonstrated that you can put your foot down and stop evil, but yet when it comes to this, rather than acknowledging that it is a fucked up thing, and I don't care who you are, I don't care what religious or political or whatever walk of life you are, it's fucked up. And if your response to me, that's like if you come to me and you say that, well, within the city that you're governing, Jimmy, the murder rate went up by like 20%. Then I just say to you, well, look at the murder rate within like Detroit. It's just like, fuck you, dude. It's just like, what are you doing with
Do
that?
you remember when Lizzo said that if you vote for Kamala Harris, she'll make the entire country look like Detroit?
Yeah, I remember her saying that, and the first thing I thought in my mind, that doesn't. Well, what do I get to have my I just, oh God, man.
Oh yeah, that really is a winning sales pitch for me. I definitely want the entire country looking like 8 Mile.
I guess I'm gonna close with if you want the world to be a better place and you want to have less evil, because you're never going to purge evil, because where good exists, evil is right around the corner. They're both antithesis. They both exist to be opposites to each other. You can't make the world a better place if you're partaking in evil. And I don't care if this, and even if he was like and they could be the most greedy, corrupt CEO out there, unless they are like actively actually killing people. Like they're sending like if someone finds out a secret about them and they're sending hitmen to actually like kill people who know way too much or whatever, it's not necessary.
No.
Like
And them saying that this guy has blood on his hands, I don't even know how much complete influence he has on the day-to-day operations or any of that. I mean, who's to say why he killed this guy? I guess we'll find out here in the coming weeks. But this idea that we should be excited and that we're waiting to see who gets killed next, it's grotesque.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to try that shit with the wrong CEO. You're going to fuck around and find out, especially after this.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like being that guy that says that. But you got to understand, you are the the radicals in the left-leaning party typically don't like guns, and you're gonna fuck around with individuals who are probably pro Second Amendment. It's not a good idea.
No, not at
It's a
all.
bad idea.
Especially, now that all of this traffic is going around, all of these shared ideas are circulating. They're gonna be motorcading themselves throughout their towns. They're gonna have police escorts. They're gonna have security. There is no way that your delusional ass is getting near Elon Musk. It's not going to happen. You will be fucking mincemeat in 2 seconds if you try.
Yeah.
The Secret Service is with that guy now.
Yeah. So it's like you're like it's just I don't want to hear these individuals preaching peace, love, kindness. They want the world to be a better place when they're just in favor of murder the people I don't like because reasons or rich equals bad or something. Well, I guess what? You know what? I identify as a billionaire. Come to my place. I will leave my front door open. You might see a flashbang, and then you won't see anything after that. I invite it, please. I identify as a CEO. I will leave my doors unlocked. Come fuck around and find out. I'm serious.
the CEO of Fuck You Incorporated.
I'm the CEO of Suck My Balls. Come give me a fuck around and find out. I'm not kidding, man. If this is the game, since you can identify as anything and you have to respect it, I identify as a CEO. Bring it.
All right, well, Jim, any gigs coming up for you, buddy?
Not at the moment. I figured with I'll probably shoot for something in January.
Oh, okay.
Just because
you see, that's the other segment we got to film in January. We have to. We're going to have to make sure that Jimbo gets this driver's license this year. That's going to be the ongoing saga. To make sure that he gets a license.
Yeah, that will come second to the book. I kind of, as fucked up as that sounds, the book is a little more.
I mean, look, just get the license, man. You already
I know
in an environment around cars.
I've been
and then on top of that, that way, hey, the only way that you're going to get more gigs in either you go up to Rapid or maybe the Bluffs or whatever is, by driving yourself there.
I'm probably going to Rapid because I trust myself in Rapid City a lot more than Scotts Bluff, if I'm to be honest.
Well, anyway, Jim, I think we'll call it a do. But yeah, what a fun show tonight.
I agree.